This is Sybert signing into Tiberian Twilight, of course, the favorite CNC for everybody, joined by Sighnapse. How you doing?
Hello. You're such a sarcastic little
Of course, and we do have a 5v5 on the map, Searing Mesa, and it is going to be Romeo, Loopy, Perpcush, Slug XT, and Xenon X as the GDI guys versus the Nod guys, who are Ram Lover, Rendentor 69, Vegamax 7, and Operator. So it is going to be a 5v5. I don't think this is one of those crazy clan matches, but looks like we've got some Nod units moving out on the north side. They're going to be able to secure this green Tiberium crystal in the north. As you can see, that first GDI Bulldog is going to be rolling up a little bit faster, but he could be very easily overwhelmed.
And they did just detonate the Tiberium there and take out the Bulldog.
Oh,
so
on the north side, they were able to...
in the middle. And then on the north side, they managed to capture it.
Yeah, I was going to say, they were able to just snipe down that Bulldog so quickly. The blue Tiberium has been grabbed by both teams, and it looks like a Shepherd is going to be heading back for GDI. And actually, where's this engineer going? He turns around right there. So a pretty early start for GDI as they do grab 2 control nodes as we hit like the 58-minute mark. So really only a minute and a half into this game as, well, we haven't even hit the 58-minute mark, and GDI has already got a very slight lead, but of course that's not the deciding factor.
Yeah, and Nod is probably going to be able to counteract that, but Nod does have a 1 tib point advantage, which doesn't sound like much, but what they're going to do, they're going to spend it on an upgrade, or they're going to spend it on tech, because they have just got on the middle green Tiberium, pretty much unopposed.
Looks like we had some upgrades going down for our Nod guys. However, he's not controlling well enough, and that Raider will actually get taken out by the GDI Hunters as they're able to snipe that down. But there's a lot of Nod contention here. This green Tiberium is under some serious fire.
Looks like GDI are going to be able to get that one, unless Nod destroy that Hunter tank, take the Tiberium and quickly detonate it before GDI can stop them. But they do capture that tib crystal, so it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Yeah, and on the north side, Nod was able to grab the tib on the north, that green tib. Not quite worth as much as the blue, but still good to have and always want to be grabbing those resource and upgrade points.
Pretty much, since Nod got that early tib, green tib, that does sort of balance it out a bit more now. So it's always good.
Yep, and GDI doing a pretty good job of trying to hold on to these points. Of course, Nod needs to go ahead and make sure that they capture as many of these control points as they have, and GDI going to be making sure that they try to keep on top of those control points just to maintain their very slight lead, as they're starting to climb a little bit of a difference, but it's still definitely close enough to where both of these teams are in the running. GDI going to be grabbing another Tiberium crystal and getting the snipe on 2 tanks there. Good kills there for GDI.
Nod's been trying to take node 5 with a single engineer, but a bunch of GDI tanks are going to move in and try and take out those turrets and capture that node. And that'll put them in an even bigger lead.
Yeah, once they were able to grab that three control point to only the 2 of Nod, they'll be really happy about that. Yeah, no one has been able to secure that kind of number 5 spot for the tower. They just neither team was able to secure it in the first 4 minutes.
Well, look at the bottom middle of the field, and there's a bunch of players fighting over that 1 tip uplink, which gives a deploy radius and allows you to secure Tiberium there. It's sort of an important point in the map, because there is that turret there, and you can deploy there, but at the same time, Nod sacrificed node 5 just to get that advantage.
Yep, Nod going to be bringing back that blue Tiberium crystal. I'm not sure where the GDI blue is, if they already grabbed it or not.
Yeah. The engineer's on its way back. I think that engineer was deployed from a support power. It's cost 20 points. You can deploy an engineer at any point on the map. It's heroic. It's pretty useful for capturing Tiberium quickly.
Yep, GDI going to be grabbing an additional green in kind of the mid-ground there, as Nod is able to hold on to this number 1 control point, but that's really the only point they've been able to
just
secure.
Lost node 3.
Yeah, as GDI captures 4 out of 5 nodes, and finally able to really push back against Nod.
All the Nod players are like hugging the south of the wall. They've got 1 player who's moving on node 3. He's a support class player. Won't be the most effective to capture those points though, because only ground units can capture stuff, so he's going to have to deploy that crawler. Otherwise he won't be able to capture. Although no, he is building tyrants, so he will.
Yeah, he's been able to go ahead and drop down there, starting to reclaim that number 3 control point. He could even just move his MCV along and possibly go for one of these other control points or just support his buddies, since he can just leave a couple of units there to capture that and then move along. There's not a whole lot of contesting there from GDI.
All the guy at node 3 needs to do is move over to node 2. Those hunter tanks have no anti-air capability whatsoever, and those Cobras will tear them apart if he gets more of them.
Ooh, the blue Tiberium dropping down, and this is the blue Tiberium on the GDI side of things. The Nod team is actually just going to be letting it sit there as they're trying to engage the GDI Shepherd tanks on the kind of in the middle side there. But GDI does go ahead and, like you said, they just grab it with that commando. However, they do get the detonation right at the 5420 mark and able to do some serious damage, although I think they did more damage to GDI than to Nod with that detonation.
If that was the blue in the south you're on about, that was an engineer, but it was still a pretty good denial for Nod there.
Yeah, the GDI engineer or Nod engineer? It looked like GDI.
It was a GDI engineer, you said commando. Just correction, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I've got OCD on this stuff.
The GDI engineer, they used that support power like you were talking about, that heroic engineer drop to grab it, and then they were like, well, we're not going to make it back, so just detonate the Tiberium.
Take out, just below node 4, there's a bit of a clash going on here. Nod's dropping down the support powers, GDI throwing down constant engineers, trying to heal these crawlers up, and they are losing crawlers like crazy.
Ooh, going to be bringing in a couple of hammerheads as well. Will they be able to actually hold here? Looks like the Nod forces are starting to overwhelm GDI and really push them back.
And at this point, node 3 is still under contention. It looks like Nod's sort of capturing it back. We can't really tell at this point. I think they're trying to... They might be able to get it. I think... yeah, they will.
Yeah, GDI certainly currently sitting on those 3 control points. Nod is simply holding number 5, contending number 3 pretty strongly, and they should be able to take back number 3 in just a couple of seconds here, but for now, they're currently 300 points behind, which, I mean, there's still a fair amount of points to go, at least 2,000 more.
Yeah, we don't really know what the score limit is, but it's either we're going to get 3,000 or 4,000, but we'll just see. And at this point, Nod may not have all the nodes, and they may be losing the score-wise, but they've controlled most of the map Tiberium, well, blue Tiberium at least. GDI's got the green Tib sword, but Nod's doubled that. They've got blue. They can win this tech race quite easily if they just hold those blues.
Yeah, and once they start really rolling out some of their bigger tier 3 units and structures, that will give them a distinct advantage. We've got in the middle a great flank attack from Nod, hitting from the left and the right at that number 4 node. And yeah, he's going to be rolling in with a bunch of these Scorpion tanks, supporting it with some stealth tanks. And then, of course, from the north as well, he's bringing in a couple of Raiders. So the Nod team, a good flank attack on these GDI Shepherds, which the GDI Shepherds are literally doing nothing. They're just sitting there. It's like these players just walked away.
I mean, in a way, that's probably because he did walk away, but also some of the Scorpion tanks are being well micro. They're using their pincer ability. I think that's what it's called. No, it's called Claw Grasp. It lets you grab hold of a unit and then stun it, and it just sort of like slowly tears it apart while healing yourself. So even if he was looking at them, there was literally nothing he could have done other than pull out.
Yeah, but he didn't even try to do that. He's got a couple of Shepherd tanks left on the ground, but overwhelming Nod forces should be able to take control point number 4 back away from GDI, as it is currently neutral and just now entering the control of Nod. Right there? Right there. I was kind of waiting for it. It suddenly like slowed down, it looked like.
And that support MCV is trying to make an escape from GDI. It doesn't look like he's going to get very far though.
On the south side, GDI has kind of rebuilt a little bit. Perp Kush has got a lot of units down here. He's got a bunch of engineers, but they're just sitting around not doing anything. He's certainly not controlling as well as he could, but he might get some serious damage off on this Nod crawler. But no, the engineers are showing up for Nod as well to get the repair on that MCV, but there was a ton of damage output here from GDI.
He did throw down shockwave artillery as well, which did slow down production seriously, and I'm pretty sure if a unit's EMP'd, you can't repair it. I'm not sure if that applies to crawlers, but I'm pretty sure it applies to
Operator
units.
loses the MCV, 50 points to GDI right there. Now at a 400-point lead.
And we have got a backup offense crawler here, but that defensive GDI players throwing down focus beams, which are crazy good against Nod crawlers. All they need to do is stay focused onto a unit for longer, and they'll do more and more damage. That
explains how quickly the other crawler did go down. But yeah, even with the mass engineer repair from our Nod players, they're not able to save it. In the middle of the map, we do have some serious engagements. Are those Firehawks? Yes, they are, trying to deal with these Cobras of the Nod player.
That's one of the first times I've seen Firehawks in a long, long time.
Not a very common unit.
I can't really say it because I don't play online much these days. Mostly because I usually do Con Stomp. But they're pretty good. They're better than the Nod equivalent Vertigos because Firehawks do have that anti-air capability.
And for a brief time, Nod actually did control the majority of the control points in this match, but already GDI starting to reclaim number 4. They've pushed it into that neutral ground. And on the north side, they're trying to get back node number 3. We've got some serious contention with our Nod players bringing in Vertigos, and we do have 2 Nod Operator and 7 against only Xenon X. So it looks like Xenon could be very well overwhelmed. Once again, those support powers being thrown down.
I'm seeing some tier 3 from both sides here. Look at the south and middle. We just lost the Mastodons going down and being captured by Nod.
Oh, do we have some Husk recovery? The Mastodon suddenly going to be, grabs it right there. So Nod going to be able to recover that Mastodon and then once again just use it right directly against Perp Kush, who's got an additional Mastodon that's just getting focused down oh so quickly. And a fully heroic stealth tank on the field, as I think he just detonated his crawler.
Yeah, if the Nod team had destroyed that crawler while it was self-destructing, they would have gotten double the score. So he took a bit of a risk there, but it did pay off for UDI.
So they would have gotten 100 points versus 50, but instead they got absolutely none.
Well, they got 50. I think they got 50 for killing it, plus 2 Mastodons, so not the best of moves, but in a way he'd have been better if he just pulled out earlier, but yeah, too late now.
Yes, definitely too late now. Over just north, or in between the number 2 and the number 1 nodes, we have some serious Firehawk DPS throwing down against these, against the Nod Tyrants, as a couple of Scorpion tanks from Operator are going to be joining in on the fight. But the Firehawks were doing some serious damage. The Green Tiberium getting thrown down. Romeo looking to secure that.
The thing about Firehawks is they resupply faster when they're near your crawler. So, in a way, what the guy with the Firehawks wants to be doing is moving his crawler about. It's a pretty lethal combo. If you move your crawlers with your Firehawks, you've basically got constant rearming and repairs.
Interesting. Nod does grab both of the blue Tiberium crystals, and they are able to just bring it right to that center south point. They grab the GDI crystal on the left side, which of course they're going to be bringing their blue crystal down to their original home starting location. But for the blue one, they can just run it really close to the middle portion and then capture it there. Having a bit of trouble doing that.
Pretty much. And we do have definitely, I think we've got, both sides at tier 3 now. If you look to the bottom left of node 4, you can see a bunch of zone captains and defense powerhouses there.
Oh, as they throw down a whole bunch of ion cannons, and the personal ion cannon being used to great effect here directly on Rendentor's crawler. Actually, no, it wasn't to that great of effect, as I guess he wasn't able to do that much damage, but he was certainly trying.
If he waited for it to charge a bit longer, he might have been able to do more damage and maybe EMP it for longer, but at the same time, he could have just pulled out, so he did what he could. Although he is now decommissioning that crawler anyway. He's recognized it's 2 damage, there's not very much you can do with it. He's better off just redeploying directly behind where he originally was.
Yeah, a couple of Mastodons sneaking in behind enemy lines, and GDI maintaining that lead over Nod. They've been pretty much commanding this game from the beginning, and they do currently have that 3-point lead as we pass the 46-30 mark. And so Nod going to be taking some damage pretty early on, taking a point loss against GDI, but there's still, like I said, 46 minutes left in this game, so they have certainly got a chance to make it come back.
I mean, even up north, at the moment, GDI is pushing towards node 3, and there's not really much Nod can do about it, because they don't have... I don't think they have solution to Firehawks and tanks. I mean, the Nod support players are spamming out a bunch of Salamanders, which are great units and all, but they're a bit easy to take down.
Especially with the engineers constantly just repairing all of these GDI units back up to full health, and we've got so many GDI units that are either fully heroic or that elite double vet status, and Nod trying to make a... What was that?
Remoto's about to lose his crawler at the middle green. A bunch of Marauders there just took out that crawler.
Romeo going to be losing his crawler as well, so Nod getting some nice points there. as they were able to snipe down a couple of those crawlers. I thought you said Operator lost his crawler as well, so GDI and Nod both taking some damage.
And Xenon is about to lose his crawler as well. Is he going to lose it? Those Marauders are going to do a lot of damage.
Oh my gosh, so much damage output from whatever that support power was. Those drills from below, I have no idea what they're called, but that was some incredible DPS being put down there. Some massive repair going on as they all do get sniped down, though. Great DPS from the Nod player, able to just take down all of those engineers that were repairing Xenon's crawler. He's trying to just hold over it with the Firehawks and scare away the Nod players. It looks like he will escape, just barely able to make it out of that situation. On the south side, once again, we do have GDI pushing in to take that southern point and to be able to reclaim that uplink tower.
And the thing is, GDI's got 2 ion cannons down at the moment, so those are going to be used to great effect. If they want to lock down a crawler, all they got to do is fire an ion cannon, and then it'll be EMP'd when it detonates.
Oh, and they're just repeatedly using those ion cannons on Ram Lover's crawler. He's desperately trying to get shields up, but it looks like we do have Loopy and Perpcush both just sort of camping the southern point right there. Ram Lover loses his crawler, and he will be also losing that uplink point to the GDI team. Nod starting to push the north as well.
Yeah, they're starting to push through to Node 2 at the moment, so...
Yeah, they were able to completely push that into neutral. They're about to reclaim it in the next 10 seconds ago. No, maybe not, as GDI rolls in with a whole bunch of very veteran units. They're going to be able to put some hurt onto Vega and actually force him back, so his support MCV couldn't quite take the heat. He forces it back, and it looks like GDI may actually be able to control node number 2.
That still puts them at a 1 node disadvantage, and at the moment, the north node is basically a Nod stronghold. There's a crawler there, it's about to get destroyed from GDI. There's not really much they can do about it. They want to be focusing on node 5, where there's literally no defense. There's 1 crawler and a small army standing between nodes 4 and 5. That's about it.
Yeah, GDI taking some serious losses here, losing a couple of crawlers in a row. That's going to be a nice little point boost, as Nod is still 600 points behind, but as we do have about 1,600 points remaining for GDI to still take this game, there's certainly time for Nod to make a comeback.
Okay, so if you take a look at Red's MCV between node 4 and 5, an ion cannon just went off. At least I saw one. Yeah, between nodes 4 and 5, have you seen an ion cannon today?
There's been a ton of ion cannons firing all the way across the map, but yeah, the Mastodon going to be pulling back for the defense of node number 4, but neither one of these teams can really capture node number 4 just yet. Of course, Nod does want to secure it to gain. Oh, GD actually loses node number 2 as well, so Nod is making a strong push back against GDI.
I think you might have missed it, but Red did a pretty good bit of macro earlier. When his crawl was under attack by a GDI ion cannon, he used his Basilisk support ability and just stasised his own MCV and completely nullified all damage it was going to do and got rid of the EMP entirely. So good bit of macro there.
Nice control by our Nod player. Looks like they're going to be able to take over node 5 as well, as they just reclaimed node number 2 a couple of seconds ago, and they're going to be able to take over node number 5, which does have a couple of GDI units there. A zone captain gets taken out, landing some points there to the Nod team, but Nod should be able to secure at least that 3rd control point, which will once again give them a nice control point advantage over GDI. Some really massive battles raging all over the map. Even at node 4, we've got Looney moving in with his MCV, but it looks like it could be a bit of a trap, as we've got a ton of Nod firepower, and the damage, the repair output from these engineers isn't quite going to be enough. Looney could really lose his MCV here, and Looney, it's actually Loopy, as he does get EMP'd there, and the MCV goes down.
But that EMP was pretty good. It didn't kill any units, I don't think. It might have taken out a couple of smaller ones, but those Basilisks are still alive, and they're still going to push. You really want to do something about that. And they're supported by those Marauders, which are the tier 1, but Marauders do really, really good shotgun damage, and they are corrosive shotguns.
Yeah, they're certainly working away on that fully heroic Guardian Cannon, which I guess that is going to be providing really the only defense for node number 4 that GDI has, as Nod is just pushing forward, going to see if they can snipe down a couple of these engineers, which is always nice if you can snipe down the engineers. It just makes future engagements a little bit weaker for GDI. Nod starting to close the point gap.
Nod is engaging some, I think it's Zone Raiders at node 4 with Marauders, and that's pretty much a perfect trap. He just surrounded an entire bunch of infantry Marauders, which is pretty much just game over for those infantry.
Yeah, even trying to fire off the ion cannon there, but I don't think it'll be
miss.
enough to actually... I mean, the damage has already been done. That ion cannon was effectively wasted. It looked great, but it did absolutely nothing, as Nod now has complete control of every single node. They're going to be grinding to the halt the advance that GDI had and reclaiming now what is a 200-point gap.
It even looked like they're about to capture node 1, although actually, no. I can't really tell what's going on node 1. I think Nod's core has just been EMP'd by Shockwave Artillery, and now they're about to lose it. Oh, and he decommissioned it. Yeah, he was EMP'd, then he had to decommission it, because GDI does have a sizable army up there.
Yeah, they also reclaimed a couple of those avatars that Nod did have. They were just able to overwhelm them and then completely destroy and recapture those avatars, adding a nice little firepower to their army. Nod still does control 3 nodes there, and they're really starting to close that gap as GDI actually holds nothing just now. It, right there, controls node number 1. I need to work on my timing a little bit.
Yeah, if we take a look down at node 4, I think the GDI's players just use his crystal shield pretty effectively. It's got a secondary function which makes a stasis field, and he's just used that to completely lock down 4 Reckoners.
Yeah, he's got those Reckoners on lockdown. They do just, the crystal field gets nullified right there and they're able to take everything out, but that was a nice delay for GDI. Although, what did it actually delay? Not a whole lot, just kind of kept those Reckoners out of the battle. Not going to be pushing GDI on the north side over at the uplink in the kind of northwest point of the map. Ion cannons being fired down all over the place as Nod is trying to find a good angle to engage. They're throwing down support powers. The Mastodon is still standing strong, and there's a ton of Firehawks here.
So we're seeing ion cannons left, right, and center now, and a lot of them seem to be really low power charged, which basically does next to no damage. But it does have that EMP quality at the end, which is sort of useful if you can land a good shot, like on a crawler or something. But just looking at the GDI deploy zone, both of those ion cannons are veteran level 1s, so that'll give them a little bit of an extra damage kick, I believe.
Operator could be losing his MCV. He marches right through. He's almost able to take out those GDI avatars, which were reclaimed a minute or 2 ago, and desperate ion cannons trying to lock down this crawler and keep it EMP'd. But it does look like he's going to be building a couple of Spectres to try and lock down this attack from GDI. He does get his crawler EMP'd, and he's desperately trying to repair it, but I don't know if it'll actually be enough. And it looks like node number 3 could be staying under the control of GDI. Nod desperately trying to fight back GDI, save Operator's crawler, which it looks like they will be pushing him back. Shepherds, or rather Hunter tanks, are going to be pushed back by this massive Leviathan push of Nod.
I'm going to say GDI wants to be bringing some heavy lasers in, probably Paladins, to take down these Leviathans, because Leviathans absolutely rip through ground armies. You can throw the balance system out the window when it comes to ground forces. Leviathans are just really powerful with those hangar bait upgrades.
Yeah, all the little drone ships flying around. I'm not exactly sure. What are they called?
I think they're just called drones. They've probably got some sort of weird name, but just think of them as planetary assault carriers from CNC3, except they fire great balls of fire.
Which sounds like it was pretty tremendous. A couple of Zone Raiders going to be escaping from Node 5 as Nod completely takes it over. A couple of Zone Raiders left to defend, but they are exactly left for dead, as Nod is going to be able to take over Node number 5, and GDI is going to be able to push Node number 4 from Nod control, and they're going to start to recapture that. So really struggling to remain in the lead here, as GDI is getting just slammed by Nod.
And we're starting to even out the points now quite a bit. GDI is still in a little bit of a lead, but it wasn't as comfortable as it was in the beginning of the game.
No, they went from like a 700-point lead at one point. Now they're just like about a mere 30 points ahead. GDI desperately trying to secure node number 1, but Operator's got a crawler there, Seven's got a crawler there, and a bunch of Leviathans are here for support. It's going to be difficult for GDI to hold this position.
Problem is GDI is pushing with a Kodiak, a bunch of Spanners, and 2 Paladins. And the Kodiaks are good in great number, and they're not particularly good against the Leviathans. What he wants to be doing is getting more Paladins, or something with lasers there. Just using lasers to take down Leviathans will just completely destroy that army really quickly. Then you can switch them on the crawler and take out the crawler. I think he's just got the wrong counter for this fight. He's doing a good job at repairing his own forces, but he's just not bringing the right units.
And he could actually be losing his MCV as well. The Leviathan's doing pretty good damage. I think that was a nuke that just fired down onto Slug's crawler in the north there. And it looks like he will be losing his crawlers another 50 points as Nod has the lead 3 of these control points are controlled by Nod, and they're just doing massive damage to GDI.
I think the GDI players really do need to work at the strategy at this point. Maybe switch out their armies, maybe redeploy as different classes, because what they're doing right now isn't going to work.
No, it's not working. They've been trying to just hold on to this lead, but it's just slowly slipping away as Nod takes over control point number 1. They've got so many forces here. They're going to be able to hold that control point with ease. The Firehawks forced to retreat, as even the Marauders from Nod are going to be contending with some of these defenses near node number 2 for GDI. It looks like Nod could just swing right down, control node number 2, and then they would have 4 out of 5.
Pretty much. I mean, these guys, the Nod players are doing a really good job at making the most of those, varying up their units. Yeah, they've got 2 tier 3 air armies, but they're also making a lot of those Marauders, which are tier 1 units.
Yeah, and they're doing really well taking down these engineers and just locking down some of the more annoying tier 3 units, the Zone Raiders and Commandos. And they're doing huge amounts of damage. I don't know what that support power is called, but it just takes down one of the GDI crawlers, and node number 2 will likely fall to the Nod control, giving them a huge lead. And suddenly, Nod is in a ridiculous lead. Operator taking some damage there.
You haven't even got 500 points left if the score limit is 4,000.
Well, the score limit is definitely 4,000, as just now Nod passes 3,500 at the 34-40 minute mark. And GDI down south, they've got number 4 locked down. They're trying to take over control point number 5 as well, but Nod using those support powers and the Marauders to take down what infantry units were there.
It's pretty much uncertain. It depends. I really don't want to call it, but it looks like Nod are going to win this one.
Yeah, Nod with a spectacular comeback in this game. They've just been doing everything right for the past maybe 10 minutes or so from, you know, like the 44-minute mark. They've just been doing spectacularly well from the huge lead that GDI had initially, even staying on top of that blue Tiberium capture. GDI, although it's not quite as important now as it was in the beginning, GDI desperately trying to keep node number 5. They've got 2 crawlers there and a bunch of Firehawks. Nod is going to be forced to retreat.
Pretty much. I mean, even though GDI's got 2 Veteran C2 super weapons, they're not really using them that well. They're trying to get pop shots off on crawlers.
Yeah, trying to utilize that EMP to really lock them down. A couple of Zone Raiders will get taken out there by the Marauders. They barely made it away to the shields. And GDI is starting to push back a little bit. They're starting to just spread their forces out so that they can lock down some of these less defended nodes. They could even go for node number 3, as it's completely undefended right now. And they could maybe take it with some of these non-nodes and turn them into at least neutral nodes.
Pretty much, at this point, GDI wants to be just pushing out as many nodes as possible, getting out engineers, raiders, whatever the GDI equivalent of raiders is, Bulldog, that's the one, and just neutralizing those nodes, and losing as few units as possible, because unit kills do translate to points.
Yeah, we've got just now almost 50 points, 48 points until, or 58, excuse me, points until Nod is able to just take this battle back. And it looks like GDI is starting to make a little bit of a push, but now it's down to a mere just 28 points, and that's just a couple of kills as we have 12 points left on the clock for Nod.
Take a look at nodes forward. They're doing a pretty good job at locking down those Zone Raiders, but I think they should get out of there. Those Zone Raiders are going to be super effective against Basilisks. I make it sound like it's Pokemon. It's not, and there you go.
And Nod is a mere 10 points away. The Firehawks desperately trying to do something. Victory for Nod, as GDI wasn't able to hold it together in the end there. 4,000 points for Nod, and GDI only 3,200. So goodness, Searing Mesa in 27.5 minutes, not able to completely shut out GDI from that early win. And really, it was just in the last 10 minutes or 15 or so.
Yeah, it's pretty much, and Nod played it pretty well. They didn't really care about the nodes at first, but they just took straight to the Tiberian, won the tech fight. And then as soon as they hit tier 3, that's it. Leviathans, Basilisks, great control. They just steamrolled.
And really good use of a lot of those support powers. It would be like, you'd see something flashing on the map and you'd be like, alright, I'm going to go check this out. And then it would just be like a bunch of dead GDI units and a couple of support powers from Nod firing off there. And you're like, well, that's what happened to that army.
Pretty much. And they couldn't, GDI just didn't rebuild properly. I mean, they could have maybe switched out crawlers, switched out classes, maybe switched out tactics instead and grouped up more rather than just trying to be lone wolves, but easy to say that now.
But that will do it for this game. Thank you for joining me, Sighnapse. If you enjoyed this game, of course, feel free to say so, whether it be in the comments, as there is a lot of hate out there for CNC4, but you can always have fun, even if it's not your favorite game ever. But I think that'll do it for this game. This is Sybert, signing out.
Pro tip of the day. There's already an argument in the comments section right now. Don't join it.